Okay, so then once again, hello and welcome to our session. This is Yannick, I'm Luise. We have slides for that.
Yeah, because first we have to thank the sponsors.
Please
we
do
have
that.
to name them, go around. Microsoft paid for a lot of things. The other 5 did as well. HSO, Proximo 3, Docs42, PwC, and AIS. See? And then there's a slide with more sponsors.
Who of you did not visit any sponsors so far? Please do that. That's your homework.
Okay, this is her.
This is me. So I'm Luise. I'm an M365 and Power Platform consultant. I'm from Germany. I'm an Office Apps and Services MVP. I love open source. I love Twitter as well. My favorite number is 42.
This is me. I'm Yannick Reekmans. I'm a managing partner and cloud solution architect at Cubix in Belgium. So Microsoft consultancy firm. And I'm here in the role of the developer. Like, it's not like I do much development anymore lately, but at least I have a development background.
They don't let him write code anymore.
Don't know why. Like, nah. But I'm an Office development MVP, so I have some credentials in this development thingy. So just not happening much anymore. I blog and I'm on Twitter as well, so find me, reach out to me. I'm responsive, I think, just less than her. And you can find me there. If you have any questions afterwards or on anything else, just let me know. And this is nice, right? It's like, I'm the developer, this is what I do. This is like, leave me alone. I want to write code. Just tell me what it has to be, but please don't let me, like, drag me in a meeting where I have to talk to actual people and what they want in their app. Like, somebody else has to figure it out. Just tell me what I need to build. I don't want to go into another meeting. I don't want to do like all the endless minor UI things, like this box has to be like 2 pixels bigger or move up a little bit. Like, someone just tell me what it is.
What about a full day workshop?
Oh yeah, nice. Let's do a design workshop with the developer. No, just tell me what it has to be and I will write the code. I'm not up for all of that.
Well, that is my role, right? So I should have a place to try out things, but I don't. And I should have someone to tell me about how to do things right, but I don't. And I feel like there are no rules in place, and I'm quite not sure if this is a good or a bad thing. So yes, if you ask me,
it's a bad thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing, right? So if there are no rules, I don't need to break them because there are no rules. So, and of course, I will have problems to get my apps out in the world after I build them. So that is the role of the maker. And you can see that if we need to make up a team and developer role is so much different than maker role and their needs are just like so different, then this can become a challenge in organizations.
For sure. So that gets us to all the challenges in low-code development, right? So first of all, that's your report.
That's me, right? Yeah. So it is assigning licenses never ever led to adoption, regardless of technology. So if we only assign licenses to users, they won't adopt that. They need
Give them licenses, they will come.
No, that is not how it works.
No?
Second problem is not assigning licenses will not solve the problem either, because that won't lead to proper governance as well. So we can't just like solve the problem by doing or not doing licenses.
Well, if you don't give them a license, there's no problem.
Yeah, well, so...
No? Oh.
We have problems with that as well. And there's always just like a very, very huge gap between deployment and adoption, which means if we roll out software or if we assign licenses and we say, hey, please use that, then there is a gap to actual usage and driving benefit and delivering value in an organization. Because if we do not do proper training and enablement and empower people and proper licenses, then they will rather build toys instead of business solutions.
I like toys.
Yeah, I like toys as well, but not in the office.
Okay. More challenges. Like, I'm a developer, right? I'm like, we do it the best way, and those makers, they're not skilled in good development practices. There are things that we learned over the years of doing code-first development that apply or should apply to Power Platform as well, and that they don't really know, because we give them licenses and they will come and they just build stuff. We should do something about this. And yeah, it's a...
Who agrees?
Like, yeah, that's also a thing. Like, code-first developers don't understand the Power Platform. They all go like, that's for low-code, that's for makers, that's for clickety-click. You cannot do proper development on Power Platform. And that gives a huge divide between the two groups that maybe should get closer to each other. So
we made
it's my
t-shirts
favorite.
for that.
It's my favorite quote. It's on a T-shirt. Like in theory and practice are the same, but in practice they are not. So let's see what we should do or should be doing in theory, and then maybe move to practice afterwards.
Yeah. So in theory, we know that collaboration beats competition. We know that. Everyone heard about this, but we only know this in theory. We also know that, that was good, right? That teams with diverse backgrounds deliver higher value than if we sit with 10 white male engineers in one room. We know this in theory. We also know that for almost any kind of question that I would ask you, hey, this or that, the answer is almost every time an and. So there are no R's. So it's mostly both or yes, all of that. There is no exclusive thing. But that is only theory. Because what I see in practice is that there is this huge gap between deployment and adoption. And that means we do not give proper training, we do not teach people properly, we do not tell them when to use what. And it's either from an admin's perspective, it's shutting down everything, just like, we don't allow anything.
Because we don't understand it.
Because we don't understand it, and if I can't control it, it's better than if I just like shut it up. Or the other one is the wildcard approach, which means it's Wild Wild West, I don't know what they're doing, I'm just closing my eyes deliberately. And if I just like pretend to not know, then nothing bad can happen. Nothing good as well, but at least nothing bad also.
If I'm not monitoring and it's all open, well, what I don't see is not happening, right? Then there's this thing that's lack of governance. We see in practice, well, lately, less and less, luckily, but still, that there is this thing that building and releasing in the same space is still happening, like environment strategy. Who does that, right? So that's a problem. That there's no release management. Like makers work for a V1. It's there, it's released. They're happy. Woohoo, we got it out. They are not thinking about continually improving it. Like you need new features. How will you do that? It's easy to build them, but the app is in one environment and released already. So that's not easy. And no permission management, because who thinks about permissions, right? Up front, I just want to build an app. Who can do what? We'll figure it out afterwards. That's what we see happening in a low-code world, right? And
yeah, no one ever saw this in the code world.
No.
Ever. At all.
Never. We don't do that. We think about everything up front. Makers and developers competing against each other. This is this thing I keep saying, like, ages ago, IT was controlling the budget. There was a business problem, and IT went like, this is the solution. This is what you get. Do you like it? Don't like it? Fuck it. This is what you get. I bought it, you'll have it. This is it. Then something changed, right? Business was not happy, business did not like that, IT is slow, the department of no, all of that. Boom. And they went like, I have a credit card, I can buy my stuff. So now they have money, and they buy their own stuff.
Lots of stuff.
Lots of stuff. Shadow IT, right? The whole thing, whatever. So they have money, they buy stuff, and now IT is unhappy because it's not aligned with their corporate policies and it's hidden away and people are doing stuff. They don't like it. So for 20 years we had fighting, and then we had 10 more, 20 more years of fighting, and now we're saying that with the Power Platform, they better work together, because if they work together, stuff is better. But that's not easy, because we have this resentment toward the other side. So there's no collaboration, there's poor integration. So that's what we see.
And also, if there is no team in charge to foster a certain culture in an organization, then it will in fact be super difficult to achieve your goals. And if you did not define what you really want to achieve using Power Platform or using any kind of tech, then how could you measure and how could you determine when you would be successful in that? So that is really crucial. And we think it's time to level up. It's time to level up for both sides. It's time to level up for developers, and it's time, he's making up a super good Super Mario, and it's also time to level up for makers and to get us like closer together.
For sure. So how do we do that?
Let's talk about things that makers are good at. So usually makers know their business requirements. So the entire thing of, I don't need to drag him into meetings and hourly long design workshops and stuff is, I know what I need. I know exactly what it should look like. So, and if I need to talk to him, he doesn't want to listen. And of course, information gets lost because I talk, he needs to listen, then he needs to understand, then he needs to build that. So it gets worse and worse. But if there's just like one layer less of communication, it is way easier to get exactly what you need. So I know what I need. Also, I can define the scope of my application. I exactly know, will I need this for which scenarios I will need that. And this is also something I do not need to explain to another team or another single developer. Third thing, I can calculate the value of my solution. And I can't stress this enough, but if you don't do this upfront, then you will have problems with budgeting that, getting time and money in your organization to build stuff, and also it eases the discussion about licensing. If you calculate upfront, hey, this is the value of my application or the value of my solution, because now we do not need to do this tedious paper thing process anymore, or we do not need to rely on third-party tools anymore, or whatever that is. If you don't do that, then it will be hard to get budget and licenses for that. But I know how to calculate the value because I am literally in the business and developers usually aren't. Outline processes and build logic is something that most makers need to learn, but if they learn, they're actually very good at that because they know how data needs to flow. They know which action follows after which other action. So I always teach people just like sketch it out on a piece of paper. If it's on a piece of paper and if you're clear about your process, then we can build an app that actually reflects how the process should go.
If you can tell me your process, I can automate it.
Yes.
If you cannot tell or share the process, it does not make sense to build an app for that. There are many cases still, unfortunately, where this situation is reversed, where business yells, I need an app for that. And the developer has to figure out what the process is that this app has to do. Really, I don't care. I built what your process is. I don't want to drag it out of you. You're doing this every day. You're doing this every day. It makes sense that the business describes their own process. We see that that's a challenge sometimes.
It is sometimes a challenge, but it should stay on the maker side. Mm-hmm. Such as creating the UI and UX of an application. There is no value in letting a developer do that and tell them, hey, but I need a green big button, but no, a little bit more to the left, and I want this size, and I want whatever navigation, and can you do flyout menu here? That is something that is easy to build for a skilled Power Platform maker, and there is no value in coding this, because This is
Yeah.
already pre-built.
And pair them with a UX designer, right? But it does not have to be the developer that builds the application, preferably not. But the business can do this with a
Most
UX
developers aren't good designers, to be honest.
designer. That's a bold statement, but it's true for me.
So you're most.
Well, I'm here to represent developers, right? So anyways, there are things that developers are good at because we get this now for like 5 minutes, so now it's time to diss the others. No, so what developers are good at, basically what we're good at is data modeling. We've been doing that for years. We create ERD diagrams and all of these database thingies, and makers just do whatever feels easiest for them. And they go to SharePoint, and they put it in there. And there's no relationships, and there's no nothing, because that's a problem for them. They don't know upfront what the data is that they should capture. If we create the data model for them, how easy it is to put an application on top of it. So that's something. This is my favorite one because we're good at this. Developers are good at documentation. This is mine. I do this. No, but ideally what we know, which is most important on this topic, is the fact that we know that documentation is important. That does not necessarily mean that we do it all the time, but it's important to have your application documented. It's an awareness that at least we have. Yeah, or we write some code to get the documentation out of it, or at least the skeleton of the documentation out of it so we can do some stuff with it. It's a thing that makers are totally unaware of, and it's something that we could help them with. It's a best practice to have your app documented, both technically as well as user, like how it works, how you will use it. Integrations, another thing we've been doing for years. We take all the systems that are in the company and we bring them into the next big application that someone is building. And it's a good thing because we have all these data sources. The maker might do another thing like, let's keep more our employees in a separate database. But we have that database with everyone that works for a company. But if we're not exposing this to the maker, how will they be able to use it? So that's our role, to make sure that everything we've got, all the APIs we've built, all the data that we have, all the line of business applications that we might want to integrate with the new platform, we have to expose them there. Same with an environment strategy, ALM. Make sure that the proper thing of dev, test, production is in place as for a Power Platform implementation as well. Because your first app might be directly in production because nobody's using it yet. So you can build in production. That's great. But
yay!
I write programs without bugs. So for me, that's okay. But everybody else creates bugs in their applications. So they have to have a dev environment.
His bugs are features, right?
It's not a bug, it's a feature. It's unintended but well-accepted side thingy in my application. So anyways, you need an environment strategy. You need dev, test, production. We have to make sure that it's in place, that they know about this, that they're aware of this, why this is important. We have to educate them. And then they can do it themselves, for sure. And the whole thing about application lifecycle management, it's closely connected to environment strategy, why they have to move it all over. And ALM is more than just your CI/CD pipeline or moving stuff from dev to production. It's also about thinking how and when will we release, how will we add new features to it, what's our roadmap, the whole end-to-end thinking from conceptualizing your application to decommissioning your application. I did a session about that yesterday. If you saw that, good. If you didn't saw that, it's unfortunate because there's no recording. So it's time to fix this.
So
that's you.
Yeah, yet again. So we need someone, and it's better if it's more than one person, to be dedicated in their job to foster this culture and to provide training and guidance for both makers and developers.
Depends on the size of your company, of course, but it's not something, and that's in any company, it's not something that should be someone's extra thingy on the side. It's a thing that, it's an actual job.
So we already have our projects and our tasks and our usual work, and if I put that on top of your task list, then most probably this won't get done. Because
this is the thing
there is no focus on that.
Yeah.
And it needs to be a role. And organizations need to understand that they need that role in their organization.
If you put this on top of the pyramid of all the work that you have to do, it will roll off.
Yeah, most likely. The culture of stopping to fight against each other because everything you do, I can do better.
Everything you do, I can do better.
Well, that depends on the perspective, of course, but that is not beneficial, because if we spend our energy into competing and being against each other, then most likely something like developing whatever strategy together and collaborating and having a shared vision and a shared goal, that won't go well. But if we foster a culture where we see that we can do something good together for a higher goal, and that this will align with the objectives that we have in our department and in our organization, then there might be benefit overall as well.
Working together brings more value.
Yep. And then, of course, it's, might be that he can do better what I do. Might be that I can do something better than he does, but it's not about who does that stuff better. It is about acknowledging that everyone has unique skills and that we can leverage them. And this draws back to this idea of the more diverse a team is, the better is the outcome. And it does not matter who is more skilled or who has more whatever on their CVs. It's really about acknowledging unique skills of teams.
The whole point is that you're around the table. You might have fierce discussions and fierce disagreements on things, but you have to acknowledge that there's value coming from the other department or IT or the business, because we're here to achieve the same thing. We're working together towards the same goal. Both of us, all of us, want to achieve that thing that we set out to do. Nobody wakes up in the morning, looks in the mirror and says, now I'm going to screw up this project. I'm going to be the asshole here. Nobody does that. That's not happening.
Yep.
So we built a real world thing. So in my company, we had an application where we had a customer and they wanted to do a CAPEX request, right? And money to buy stuff. So people could put in a request to get money to buy stuff. So this is what we call an advanced maker solution, because the goal of this application or this project was to achieve as much as possible with low-code functionality, with Power Automate, with Power Apps, everything a maker could do. And we would only get the developer involved with things that we could not achieve out of the box. Clicking, dragging, combining, all of that. Building in the UI. If we need code first components, then the developer could be involved. So it was a money request process. There was a very multi-stage, multi-approval, approver approval thing. That's pretty interesting. We'll go through
with
that.
An approval matrix.
With an approval matrix, like if it's between 0 and 50,000 euros that you're requesting, there are like 7 stages of approval and 2 stages of notifications and many people approving. But if it's between 50,000 and 2 million, there's like 12 stages and all of that. And that's something that's in there. And Pro Code was the last resort. So we ended up with one model-driven app, one Canvas app, one business process flow. More than 20 cloud flows. I'm always saying more than 20. That's easiest because this thing is still in development. Like it's continuously changing and it's just more now. One PCF component, 5 plugins, 1 workflow action and 3 form scripts. So it looks like we did a lot of code first, but it's just all 5 lines of code to achieve one thing, like a small thingy that's not possible out of the box. So that was fun. The challenges we had in our low-code thingy was synchronous code. You do something, or the user does something, and you want to have something else happening in transaction at the same time. That's not easy when you do it low-code. then you need a plugin that runs synchronous, because Power Automate flows always are asynchronous. You could build a new transaction in a Power Automate flow, but it's not the same transaction as what the user started. Another one that's pretty funny, because we come from Microsoft 365, we're moving into a Power Platform. We don't have 10 or 15 years of Dynamics experience. When I told this to a Dynamics consultant, they were like, heh, we knew this, but I did not. So this thing like the on-add in Power Automate, you create something new, you create a new request, you could have a trigger in Power Automate, because you create a new item in a table in Dataverse. And then the flow would start. Now, when you do an end-end relationship, so you make a relationship between a request and, for example, the users table, and you can have associate multiple users to multiple requests, and then you want to do something when the user gets associated to that request, I thought, let's do on-add. That's not working. It does not work. It does not trigger. So because that does not exist, apparently, it's not an on-add. When you do a end-end relationship and you add someone to that relationship or something, it's called associate in Dynamics. And disassociate when you remove someone. Mm-hmm. And there is no trigger in Power Automate on associate and disassociate. That does not exist. So
maybe they forgot to implement
maybe
this.
Nobody told them that we need this.
Maybe no one of the Dynamics people told the Power Automate people that we would need that, because people at Microsoft don't talk to people at Microsoft.
Who has a background in Dynamics? Yeah. So what do Dynamics consultants do instead of this? They write a plugin, or, well, let's solve it by not using the out-of-the-box functionality and create our own intermediate table. Every Dynamics consultant I talk to is like, and relationships out of the box. It's like, nah, because there's like an intermediate table that's hidden. We don't do that. We just create our own intermediate table. Much better. Much better. Like, why? So I don't know this because I don't have that background. So we learned. Another nice thing, when you create a business process flow, Microsoft says, that's awesome because you can jump all the stages back and forth, and everybody likes this because it's flexible. But nobody likes that. At some point, you did like 3 steps. You don't want to go back. That's like you did 7 stages of approval for 50,000 euros. You're like, woohoo! And then someone goes like, yeah, well, no, let's go back, change the number to like 2 million. I'm requesting 2 million, but I still got like all the 7 approvals, and I'm jumping back in the future, and I'm like, now I get 2 million.
So it doesn't really make sense that you can prevent in the business process flow that you just like move forward, but you can't move back.
I don't want to move from this stage to that or from that stage to this. That's just what it is. There's no UI to configure this. And there's also no workable UX for a one-N relationship. Like you have a one-N subgrid, nice. And then one item in that subgrid has N relationships again. So you need a subgrid on a subgrid. It's not a workable solution. There are ways to do subgrid on subgrid and collapsible and all of that.
That is like a lot of clicks then for our users.
Not nice. My users did not, well, our users did not like that because I did not build this. So, how does this work? 5 stages. You need money.
So please welcome the king of gifts.
Yeah. You have to like approval preparations. Like we had this big matrix of who has to do what on which stage, and there was an Excel file, and that had to be translated into a Dataverse table, and then it had to be applied. So that's what that step does. It's a Power Automate flow that reads the complex table and puts the right approvers in the right stage and gets everything done. And then we get the approval stage where everybody goes to approve it, hopefully, or decline it. Not nice. I want my money. And then we go to the verification stage, because it's not because 7 stages of people have said yes that finance goes approved. No, they have to check if it's in budget or not. If it's like you requested 50K, you budgeted 50K, but you're now requesting 100. Will we do that or not? So finance has to verify it. And then we go like complete it, and I get my money, and I can finally spend it on that awesome thing that I want to build. So that's that, right? So
let's demo.
It's required to be able to follow along. So, first of all, what I want to show is a little bit of super nice code. See? It's only about 140 lines of JavaScript code, form scripting. It's not too complex. And most of it is because it's opening and closing brackets.
Yeah. Fancy brackets.
Fancy brackets. See? So that's that. This is the one for the access teams. Like, when it's an end-end relationship, we wanted people to end up in an access team. So we have a plugin. See, that's like super easy. Why can't I have this in the Power Automate flow? Like, whatever. I don't know. Time for a feature request, I think. We got some more plugins. They're less interesting than all of this. So there's like more small plugins. See?
But there are only always just like 50 lines of code, 100 lines of code. So it's not that anyone needed to write just like an entire, very, very huge complex thing, because that was really the last resort.
See? This is one that's actually only 1, 2, 3 interesting lines of code. But you cannot achieve this in Power Automate, because this has to run synchronously. Because at some point you want to, like, it's approved and the money is like assigned. You don't want this to be deleted now at some point. So when you click the delete button, you don't want the Power Automate flow to go like, you can't delete this. Yeah, that's too late. It's gone. That's how delete works. All right, so you need a plugin. So then we got from form scripting. Let's see if I'm on the right form, because we have 2 forms on a request. It's like the request form for the end user and the admin form, because there are some admins that want to overrule the rules and they want everything. So at this point, when you're under review and people are approving, you don't want them to move back, because I'm halfway there. See? Like, I'm halfway there. At this point, you don't want to go like someone that's, oh, what does this arrow do? This is nice. Let's go, just go back.
Who knows users who just like click buttons out of curiosity?
That's what I do. This button is there. If it isn't
If there
supposed
is
to
a
be
button,
there,
it's supposed to click.
it shouldn't be there. See? So form scripting, you do that. I know you can overrule it when you disable JavaScript, but at least that's not something that an end user would do. And have you tried disabling JavaScript on Dynamics? Nothing will work. Awesome. Just broken anyway. So whatever. What else was I supposed to show? Oh yeah, this one. See? So this is the approval details. This is the form. We have 5 stages. 5 stages. We know if it's approved, if this stage is completed, which order it is, if it's approval and notification, and all of this. This is nice, right? You've got 5 stages. It's visible. Now, who is in those 5 stages? Who has to approve this? You're like, okay, let's open up local finance. It's loading.
Everyone loves a loading spinner.
Loading. Okay, so it's Adele. Awesome. So that was okay. Let's go back and see stage 3. Oh, this is Alex. Oh yeah, cool. Let's go back again. Like, the old thing is gone. Yeah, you could do modal dialogues and pop-ups and all of this, but it's just much, much more difficult and still not user-friendly. So what did we create? We created a PCF component that does all of this at the same time. Like, it shows all the stages, it shows the statuses, and who's in those stages. So it's a PCF component that takes all of the data, renders it on a page, and makes it useful for the end user. Where is it stuck? How long is it? Well, the how long is not there, but we could do that. How long is it stuck in that stage? Who's blocking it? Who did what? All of that visualized on the page for an end user to work with. Now,
Who's a fan of Canvas apps in model-driven apps?
you are. Why are you?
Because if it's something really quick, then you can, it depends on the size. If it's something like a small application, then you can use a Canvas app to kind of speed up the process. But if it is something larger, I would always use a PCF, just because the Canvas apps just take more time to make.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a smaller client with Canvas apps and those sort of model-driven apps, I think it's nice to fix a solution, and you've got a blanket that's there.
Yeah, it's a mess, right?
And it doesn't run synchronously either. So
Yeah, so that's the point. It's not synchronous.
We have a winner.
So you load this on the page, a PCF component. A PCF component is there on the page. A Canvas app goes like, oh yeah, this is white space. Oh yeah, there's this spinner. And there's the Canvas app. So you had something to add?
Yeah, so one of the things we did was we did a custom page
Mm-hmm.
and sort of blending the Canvas plus one. Because what happened was iteration one, again, being a developer, we
Mhm.
developed it, had a similar thing. And we presented it to the first product group who was original and they were happy, and then suddenly somebody else came in and was like, you are so clunky, man. If I have to go and
Mm-hmm.
that circuit, I have to go like 10 clicks and
Yeah.
then. And what we did was, again, spoke to Microsoft, because the page was in preview,
Mhm.
so we ended up replicating the
Preview.
entire 5 circuits in each circuit
Yeah.
in a custom page. So what
Yeah.
happens is when they log in, so rather than seeing that home map as this,
Mm-hmm.
they basically get a custom page.
Yeah.
Everything is like menu, click on it, that opens.
Yeah.
And where we are submitting like say parent page and the child page, the child page,
Mhm.
put everything in a canvas as a
Yeah.
custom page and do like one click done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
And
that is an amazing idea.
That's another approach that you could do, and then it's low code again, because then you're doing Canvas apps on a custom page inside a model-driven app. That's amazing. When
But
we started
preview?
this, it's still in preview, and it was very early.
We
And-
had a call with Balcat, the technical,
Mhm.
the customer was like, we can't go for it, but suddenly, so we had to get the PM of that and
See?
did a code review on all our custom page and I said, okay.
Well,
So
I can't.
after that story, I'm more and more convinced software development is a people business.
Yeah, it's a people thing. There was one more thing that I wanted to mention about this.
Yeah, you
I-
wanted to show the Canvas app.
Oh yeah, because there was one more step. It's like once you build a PCF component, that's awesome, right? When on the subgrid, see the subgrid. Where's my subgrid? On the grid, you have this like new request approval. That nice
That's
button.
beautiful, right?
And
Place all of that.
and then you do a PCF component, and all of that's gone. Where's my ribbon? I want to add stuff. That's like gone. I hate that. So then we decided to build this in PCF component. It's like, damn, that's hard, because it's the whole editing thing again. And then we went back to all of our makers, and then we did like this. Now, what happens? Now we do the Canvas app. So we do a subgrid replacement with a PCF component, which calls a Canvas app to change items in the stage. And that's easy because the data sources are already in there, the connections are already in there, so we can do all of this in the in a Canvas app really, really quickly. Now, with custom, maybe custom pages might have been a better solution. Unfortunately, that
But
thing
back then,
only
still in
went
preview.
GA last week, or 2 weeks ago, and built, I think. So let's see where we are at. So I think we have to get a move on. No?
Yep.
Yes?
Yes.
See, so this is my favorite slide.
It's a lovely slide.
I
Please take
change
pictures.
I change it in every color scheme every time that I do a presentation, because I love this, because it shows all of the products in data in Power Platform. It shows all of the accessibility points, things like we talked about. You can create a user interface with model-driven apps and Canvas apps and now custom pages, but that's essentially just model-driven apps. Logic with business rules and flows, like Power Automate flows, plugins and functions. You could do your own web services and custom controls and metadata extensions. So all of this is a nice thing. This is a slide. It doesn't cover everything, but at least if you're having a conversation with your makers, they don't have to get all of this. They just have to know that all of this exists. So that at some point when they feel like, this is
Wow,
becoming...
I hit a wall. My tools do not provide this feature to me, so like there is no trigger. I can't help it. I can't create my own trigger, so what will I do? Then, of course, I should know all of that this exists, and that a skilled person, skilled at this, can now help me achieve what I want to achieve.
Mm-hmm. Who are you going to call? The developer. Or
Let's say a skilled
Ghostbusters.
person.
So, optimizing for success. So, first of all, important, start building apps with Power Platform. Because if you don't do that, all of this does not make sense. Anyway, know your options. Is that yours? Am I just doing all of your...
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're taking over again. So know your options, which means I need to know what are the code options as well, even if I do not write the code myself. And the developer side needs to know all the options and what is possible in the low-code side of things. They do not necessarily need to build all the things by themselves, but they need to know what is possible for a skilled maker.
I will not open App Studio. I get scared of App Studio. That's not my thing. That's not my place. I don't like it there. I get scared in there. It's just what it is.
Out-of-the-box capabilities. With custom codes, we should know what are plugins from scripts. The entire last slide. I should know that by heart. Why is that so important? Because if I don't know what is possible, then it might be that I do just like quirky and very clumsy workarounds, and that would just like screw up things. Just like entirely, just because I don't know that a major problem that I have could be easily fixed with 50 lines of code or 3 lines of interesting code, because rest is comments and fancy brackets. But
that's all we do, right? Comments and fancy brackets. And the colon at the end, because otherwise the thing breaks.
Yeah, but if I don't know that, then I will make very poor decisions, and that will decrease the quality of my application. And that makes low-code solutions problematic if we don't know what is possible, and most advanced solutions contain at least some code. So there is no value in claiming, yeah, but we did this entirely no code or low code or whatever you call that.
And it's not an achievement to do it only in low code. That's not an achievement. Most probably, if it's a proper sized application, you did it wrong, because not everything is possible in low code. That's just what it is. So it's not a fight anymore. We should make this a team sport. We're trying to achieve the same thing. Our goal is to deliver a nice, proper, well-working application together. We're in this together.
Yeah, and it might not be helpful if we always listen to Microsoft marketing telling everyone can make an app in 5 minutes and everyone should be doing it like that. That might not be...
Yeah. All apps should be Canvas apps.
So yes, I'm a Canvas apps person. I like Canvas apps. I'm way better in Canvas apps than I am in model-driven apps, but still, not every app should be a Canvas app, because I have different tools in my toolbox to solve different problems. So in your toolbox at home, you have a hammer, you're a screwdriver, you have everything. You would not try to solve every problem with the same tool. And same applies to making
If you
software.
smash it hard enough, it will work, right?
If you smash it hard enough, everything is a hammer, I know, but still.
So what's the result of FusionDev done correctly? So as a result, you can read it, right? So
You can read that.
So it's, if you understand the value of DevOps for Power Platform, it's important to understand it. Work together, make sure that you do the proper dev test, production, release cycle, all our plannings. Things like understanding that makers and developers form a team. We're doing this together. That's the result. There's no more fights and friction against IT and the business. Because how did that ever happen? Like, marketing has to work with product development every day to get the stuff out. For some reason, IT is that department that's always outside of everything, that's included in nothing, that's always fighting, it's yelling no, that's under budgeted every time. So that should not be. They should be included, work together. When you get to that point...
Of course, training, labs, documentation. It's like not teaching people, hey, there is a button, but when shall I click that button? What is the best approach of doing things? How do we do this here? So, of course, there might be a lot of approaches to building good software, and you will have your house rules of doing that. Please teach people about that, and please give them room to grow and room to improve, because just because Microsoft says, hey, it's just clickety-clackety, and you don't need to know anything, and everyone can do that. Yes, everyone can learn how to do that. I strongly believe in that, but that does not mean that we do not need proper training and guidance.
Yeah, you heard the nice marketing message they put out at Build. Like, take your Figma file and it will generate the Power Apps for you. I'm like, oh no, this is gonna be like, where's my consulting? This is gonna be a consulting opportunity.
Yeah, so
Um,
I read afterwards on Twitter that someone said, I will make a business out of that and taking all those Figma created Power Apps and fix them live on stage.
Yeah, that's a thing, right? You know this is going to go wrong, but it's a nice marketing message. So
It is a nice
amazing.
marketing message, and of course, it's nice to have a mock-up of your app. And it is nice to have a mock-up. If you have a click dummy, that's cool, because it makes it easier to talk to users and ask them, hey, is that what you would need? Is this how you envision that?
Use this for your initial mock-up.
Yeah, envisioning phase.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's perfect to have this initial discussion, but of course that should not be a working app.
The UX
because,
designer
no.
made the app. We like this, like the design. We put it in Power Platform, it makes the Power App. Now people can see the app in a Power App, and then stop, and then you build this thing properly. It's my opinion. I don't work for Microsoft, I can say this. And make use of available tooling. That's important as well, because there's a whole lot of tools that are not in Power Platform. Things like XRM Toolbox. We should teach even business users, makers, about XRM Toolbox. Potentially
That
not
should be
about
included
every
into
plugin
training.
in XRM Toolbox, but there are some that are pretty interesting for makers. So, how to get started? Because we are running out of time. Like, we are out of time. So is this me again? No. Oh, we are.
Covered that.
We covered
because
that.
This is how to get started.
But
is
then I
you
have
need
two
to make
slides
use
the
of
same thing. See? See? It's the same thing, it's just a different title. Boom, done!
Okay, so this is when a developer makes the slides.
Our sponsors again. Thank you. Anyone have any questions? Please come up. We're still here. Yeah, or you can ask them now.
Just out of curiosity, how long did it take you to build the payments application from start to kind of end? Obviously, I know it's still in build, but...
Let's ask Carmen, because she built this.
We started in October, and the first release was. And the first release was in April.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and it was a team of average 3-4 people working on it. So, okay.
So I see that directly, like you talk about people and development. I mean, the reality, if you're going as an SR,
Mm-hmm.
you're doing this envisioning and this workshop, and they're like,
Yeah.
this is a workload, go ahead with it.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you see that fusion development, we can practice? Is it more like, because, traditionally being Dynamics and .NET, like, you always had the FCs and the technical consultant, and they have been working together all the way.
Yeah.
So what is, is it more geared towards the business, who's, as you mentioned, like who is giving an app, obviously they will not give me the process map and the pain
Yeah.
points. I will have a functional consultant going in,
Yeah.
pulling a Visio process map, and then functional technical consultant
Yeah.
as an SI do it.
There are two things there. First of all, there will still be more functional consultants and more technical consultants, and they will be working side by side with the customer. But I saw a session in Oslo a couple of weeks ago from someone that said, as a consulting company, we have the responsibility to stop the customer, have a chat with them, make them understand the value of Power Platform first, that it's a platform, not an app, what it should do, what it will be, bring them together, like on their side, business and IT, set the expectations straight. So you have to, it's easier in traditional software development to just get started in the app and building it and doing that. There's still a lot of work to do in making the customer understand the proper value of Power Platform before you build an app on that and have that discussion, because the only thing that the customer currently knows is what Microsoft is telling them. Like, here are your cheap licenses. I will give you another 30%, 40%, 50% discount if you take a lot of them, and then you will be super duper productive from day one. That's not what it is.
And what happens is then they build toys.
Yeah.
They plug in their SharePoint lists and they make them pink. And don't get me wrong, I like pink. A lot, but that doesn't mean that this app will then deliver me a lot of value. And then, of course, we get into licensing discussions because it doesn't offer more value, and then I need to pay for that. And if they do not understand, this is a platform, and we need to leverage that platform in order to align with our
And for that work,
objectives.
you can still get paid. So there is a market
Yeah.
opportunity to do
Yeah,
this.
totally.
Because Microsoft is not doing that, and
At all.
And most likely, most companies are in the building type of thing, like get the app out there. But the understanding the Power Platform and the value and bringing people together and making them work and reorganizing the business to work better with Power Platform, there's an opportunity there for people, I think. Okay? Any more questions? Because otherwise we will just wrap up. We're here. You can find us. We'll still be around for 2 hours until the end of the event. And you can find us as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Another one. Good one. You should have gone to her.